Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out next at night. So don't forget to check out my Podbean page, mrwebb.podbean.com. I also have this YouTube channel. I have a Twitter feed at mrwebbpv, and you can get this as a podcast on Stitcher and iTunes as well. So welcome to August of 2018. Even though we still have pretty short nights, this will be a great month for watching the 4 brightest naked eye planets at sunset. You'll have your usual close encounters, and you'll even get the annual Perseid Meteor Shower. And it's a good year. I'll get to the details soon. But let's start with some planets. Alright, so each planet in that song you can see at some point this month, but 4 of them you can see at night before like midnight. So, or actually before 9 p.m. Anyway, look over here. I've got in the middle of August, 16th, and what you can see right here is Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. I'm just in the middle of the month. This is on average where they'll be. Now I have a new setup here, so if you notice, Starry Night 7 now. I've finally actually gone up there. But anyway, let me go a little bit past sunset. In fact, let me go about an hour after sunset to 9 p.m. Venus is still down here. Venus is really bright off in the west. Beautiful to look at. Venus is still shining bright. And if you use your telescope or binoculars and take a look at it, you will be able to see eventually that it is a half Venus. It's looking really, really nice there. But you need a telescope to really catch that. All right, so let me back on out. What else do we have around sunset? We've got Jupiter up here in the southwest, and on the 16th it's near the moon, but that's coincidence here. Jupiter is looking really good because it's going to be up for about 2 hours, 3 hours. It sets at 11 p.m. about in the west-southwest. In fact, if I fast forward time here, you'll see that it does indeed set around 11. But again, the cool part about Jupiter is if you look at Jupiter, well, this is even better than a telescope view, you will be able to see the 4 moons, or Galilean moons of Jupiter. Io, or Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, who are much further out on this one. Sometimes, like when I went out with my friend Dave last week, we were actually able to see a shadow transit. Which just lucky, and sometimes there are 2 shadow transits happening at the same time. Apparently August 16th at 9 p.m. is one of those times. So let me come back out of there. And it's also near this cool name called Zubinolganubi. That is the brightest star in Libra. So it's hanging out right there this month. So that's Jupiter. Okay. Now these 2, Venus and Jupiter, are pretty much visible just around sunset because they will set by 11. But over here on the other side, we've got Saturn and Mars. Saturn is already up in the south, fairly high up there. And you just have to look about 25 degrees above the horizon. And or if it's early in the morning, like 2 a.m., you look low in the southwest. And then Mars is trailing not far behind. Again, if I fast forward time, you will see that they move across the sky toward the west. And Mars, let me talk about Mars. Again, try to find Mars about the first week or 2 in August. Use a telescope, find a friend with a telescope, somebody who knows what they're doing, hopefully. Because you might be able to see some actual surface features. If I actually go in there, now this is going to, again, be much better than even a telescope can do. If I zoom in there, you should be able to see some surface markings. Mars is usually just a little red dot. But, oh, that's even way bigger than a telescope can get you. Woo! There you go. Typically with a telescope, you might be able to see something closer to this, where you sort of see little tiny markings there. But you can't see that for another 2 years because it's at opposition right now. That's its closest. We're lapping on the inside track as Earth or past Mars, so we get a really close look about every 2 years. And this is a good one. So anyway, get Mars. First 2 weeks of August. After that, it shrinks a good bit. And yeah, those are the 4 naked eye planets that you can see. Now, what you might also be able to see, now Mars will still be up in the morning at the beginning of the month. If you want to look to the southwest, if you wake up in the morning, you want to see something, Mars in the southwest, but only the beginning of the month. But lastly, you might be able to catch Mercury. Now, I have this set up on August 24th, which is the beginning of the last week of August, and that's about when is the best time to see Mercury. About 5:20 in the morning is when it rises. You'll need binoculars. Now, it's good to get out there then because it's dark. Even though it's not high up, it's still dark enough to see Mercury. But binoculars will help not to see any detail, just to actually see it because it's right near the sun, so it's going to be tough to see. And if we change it day by day, Mercury kind of stays that way and then dives back close to the sun. So to summarize, you've got Mercury in the morning, the last week of August, but the rest of the time, you pretty much have to go to sunset, like 9 p.m., and you can see 4 planets, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars, all in one sky.
And a bunch of other stuff.
So what's the other stuff that's going on in August? Well, first of all, let's go to the 4th of August, and that is when we have a last quarter moon, which means we're not going to see it around sunset. We might actually see it around midnight or so. In fact, let's go to 1 a.m., and 1 a.m. is when you see the moon rising up. It's getting up higher in the sky, and it'll be visible until, well, the sun rises. Then you might actually be able to see it in the morning on your drive to work. Really neat, even in the blue dawnish sky. Then, of course, if we were to actually watch the moon throughout the next couple days, from the 5th to the 6th, 7th, 8th, it gets skinnier and lower. And then eventually on the 11th is when we have the new moon, the darkest skies, and it's pretty close to the sun from our perspective, not physically close. You might be hearing something about a partial solar eclipse. That's true. That's happening, but not for us, okay? It's only happening for people in Greenland, Northern Europe, and Northeast Asia. If you're one of those people, get out there. But the rest of us, meh, you're not missing anything. And thus, it brings us to the August annual fun time called the Perseid Meteor Shower. The 12th to the 13th. This is definitely a good year for the Perseids. We have, it's just a new moon, right? The dark skies, if you have them, you'll get about 60 meteors per hour. That's typical for Perseids. It's a really good shower. And remember, you're seeing bits of dust that are like in the orbit of the Earth, and the Earth is slamming into them at an effective speed of 37 miles per second. So it's just like this little grain of dust just hitting the Earth's atmosphere at 37 miles per second. So it crushes the atmosphere in front of it. And if you know anything about gas laws, anything that gets compressed quickly or at all heats up. So it compresses that air, heats it up, heats itself up, burns up, and it's pretty. So the strategy for this year is to get out whenever it's dark, because the new moon or just a crescent moon isn't going to affect you at all. However, the best time to go out is actually in the morning. So anytime between midnight and the morning. So what are you doing? Well, you go out and you have some fun looking at some constellations, but the one you want to look for is Perseus up here. And it's pretty much, actually, let me go back to sunset, just so we get a little idea here. Most of us would go out after sunset. And 10 o'clock, if you look toward the north and the northeast, you notice that Perseus is just beginning to rise up right there. Okay? Now, one way to find Perseus is to find Cassiopeia and just sort of follow this line downward toward Perseus. But anyway, I'm digressing. The idea is that throughout the night, Perseus is going to rise up and get higher and higher, which means we will be able to see more of the meteors, because Perseus is the radiant. That's where the meteors appear to be coming from. That's a complicated geometry I'm not going to get into in this, but I just wanted you to see that. Now, where do you want to look? Kind of near Perseus, but actually, you want to take in as much of the sky as you possibly can while keeping Perseus sort of in front of you. I kind of like in front and to the left or to the right, so I sort of get a whole sky. But you're trying to look at the whole sky. No telescopes, no binoculars, just your eyeballs. That's all you need. You can also do some scientific meteor counts. Just look for a meteor count or Sky and Telescope or the International Meteor Organization. But they're there. You can do that if you actually want to contribute to science. They use that data for real. All right. So anyway, that is the Perseid Meteor Shower. Get out there, especially in the morning if you want to be successful, or just get out there at night away from the light pollution if you want to see something. And don't be afraid to spend 15 minutes, half an hour at the least to see something. All right, so moving on. Close encounter on the 14th. Let me go to August 14th. So right after the Perseid Meteor Shower, which, by the way, they sort of are active in July and August. So, you know, you do have a long time to see them, but the peak is the 12th and 13th. But anyway, the 14th, if we take a look at the west, we see a nice lineup of the moon and Venus. Okay, if you have a clear view of the horizon, you'll be able to see Venus very, very bright down here, the moon about 5 degrees above it. And last month, this was actually really cool because they were only about a degree apart, I think. And lots of people on social media were sharing their experiences with me because I just put something out there. I pulled off to the side of the road. I was driving home with the boy from the beach, and I was driving west, and I saw it, and I just pulled over to the side of the road, and I said, guys, go out there and see it. Just look at it. Even if you can't take a picture, just look at it. And people did, and they shared it, and it was really cool. So I'd love to see more pictures of this out there as well. Anyway, you see Jupiter's over here. So on the 17th is when the moon gets pretty close to Jupiter. And actually, you'll have not only Jupiter there, but again, Zuba-Nuga-Nubi right below there as well. Oh, that's the first quarter moon, essentially. It's actually on the 18th, the first quarter moon, right half is lit up. You can see it up until midnight. And on the 20th and the 21st, you should see the moon hanging out near Saturn. Right there, Saturn right nearby on the 20th. And on the 21st, you see the moon a little bit past Saturn as well. All hanging out right in the teapot of Sagittarius. Good times. And then you see Mars down here, and you'll see that the moon will get there a little bit later. Kind of straddles it on the 22nd and the 23rd. Mars is about 6 degrees away. Again, nice bright moon, decently big Mars in the telescope, but that should be also a good time. And lastly, you've noticed that the moon has been getting bigger and bigger. Well, folks, the full moon is on the 26th when it rises right around sunset, and the moon sets right around sunrise.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
Okay, as far as constellations go for this month, let's switch to the 15th of August and let's go to about 10 o'clock, zoom out, and I'm just going to give you the basics here. Now you see off in the west, you see some of the spring constellations are going away. And you see the summer constellations such as Cygnus and Lyra and Aquila and Delphinus. They're all up there. And you'll see the fall constellations hanging out in the east, rising up like Pegasus and Andromeda. Now what I want to do this month is I just want to talk about something really cool in Hercules, all right? So now how do you find Hercules anyway? Well, you start with the Big Dipper over here. That's really a good starting point. You take the handle of the Big Dipper, you've heard this before, but it makes an arc, and you follow that arc to Arcturus, right? That's the brightest star in Bootes, the kite, cone, club, whatever shape you want to make it. But it's there. And up around there, next to it, on the left is Corona Borealis. You'll see it in the night sky. Way better than this shows it, but it's a nice little cup shape. Then right near that, you will see the keystone asterism, which is Hercules. Okay? Now, here's the cool part about Hercules. One, ignore the arms and legs. Nobody ever remembers how they go. Don't worry about it. But in here is M13, the Hercules cluster. If you zoom in on there, if you might be able to see it with your naked eye. If you can't see it with your naked eye, then a telescope or binoculars will certainly help. It's just a small little fuzzy. It doesn't look quite like a star, but then when you take binoculars and zoom in, you'll see a little fuzziness to it, a little more fuzzy, and some individual stars. This is the Hercules cluster of stars. Pretty cool to find. If you have a telescope or binoculars, take a look. Well, that's it for Observing with Webb. I hope you get out there and check out the Perseid Meteor Shower. That's going to be the best part, as well as seeing 4 planets pretty easily catchable in your astrophotography equipment. So I'm looking to see if anybody can get Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all in one night. So if not, just use your eyes, and it's just as much fun. So go out there, get to the beach, have some fun, and take a look at the stars. So here I am wishing you very clear, dark skies for the month of August.